Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Aspiring Entrepreneur. Welcome to today's daily recap. It is June 28, 2021, closing out the month and also closing out the second quarter. I hope you guys have had a wonderful weekend. It was obviously a nice, relaxing weekend, getting ready for the 4th of July, getting ready for some fireworks. With that said, guys, in this daily recap, if you're new to this channel, what we do is we go over a handful of tickers that are essentially making moves, things that we cover on this channel frequently. And then what we do is just kind of talk about the thesis behind them, some of the moves that are going on and where we see them short term and both long term. And so the SPY in general, guys, as you can see on the daily chart here, it's definitely extended over the 20. We're constantly making all new time highs, which is really interesting in this market. You know, there's this whole idea that this market's been overextended since last March. You can see clearly we're uptrending, and we really haven't seen a market pullback. Now, we've seen some sell-offs which feel like market pullbacks, but a real pullback would really come back down here. I really feel like in the 360s for the SPY, which is the S&P 500 ETF. And so I really feel like with this uptrend, you know, we're in a very overextended market, and every time, you know, essentially we make new highs and we continue to trend over the 20 and over the 50. And so you can see we haven't necessarily tested the 20 or the 200-day moving average, which is close to 380, but you can kind of see here, right? This is where we sort of were this year, before COVID, excuse me, and then obviously the sell-off happened. And then so you can really think of this level here at 337 from last March as where we were in the market, and we're sort of catching up. So this sort of loss, we sort of overextended ourselves, right? And so we essentially went backwards, and then we reclaimed a few months later, and then we essentially moved forward. And so of course, you know, we're all bullish long-term on the market, but you can also see it's very extended. And so it's really interesting to kind of see how this has been sort of our play. If you're looking for long setups, guys, I mean, again, there's constant validation off the 50-day, and so you can obviously wait for that if you're looking at, you know, things like Apple, Microsoft, Facebook, things like that. But again, we're topping off with all new time highs, so I personally don't like getting into long positions if that's the case. So the first stock we'll cover today is Apple. Apple's been a great consolidation at 135. And I mentioned to you guys a couple weeks ago that I bought options here at the 122 when it was bouncing off the 200-day. And so if you're an options player, one of the things that I'd like to do is when I know a stock is sort of trading under its normal range, is I like to add some call options, and they could be 2, 3, 4, they could be 6 months out, whatever you're comfortable with. And what that allows you to do is you can essentially get them cheap here, and I typically get them out of the money, okay? And so I don't necessarily buy them in the money at 124, I buy them out of the money. And then if obviously you can see in this sort of push back to reclaim 135, which is from this pullback here from the recent highs, that you can actually sell them for, you know, 100% plus profit easily, okay? And so this is a really good trade here for the options. If you're long, we talked about selling your shares here and buying some more at the 127.50. You could have added some even lower, and now you're basically reclaiming that and retesting that. And so of course, guys, the key here and really in this video today I really want to get across is this point of staying familiar with stocks. And I'm talking about, we'll go over a handful more of stocks today, but really when I say staying familiar, knowing what are the key levels for a stock, what are the levels that a stock consistently bounces off of, consistently hits, and maybe doesn't break. What are some of those levels? And for Apple, that's been the 135. You know, you can see there's a lot of consolidation in this level. And so when you break this sort of level here, you can see that now we're looking at potentially reclaiming all-time highs, okay? But you can see here that it was a top. So I mentioned to you guys back here was please sell your shares, or a portion of your shares, of course, just to pay yourself, because if you held full position, you essentially lost this entire gain, okay? And so again, we day trade primarily on this channel. We're not necessarily long-term investors in Apple, but you know, again, if you held on to this, and you'd probably be up a few points, okay? And so a lot of these moves, you're essentially losing them, and they retest. And so of course, that was a solid play for Apple, and it continues to, you know, and so I wouldn't be surprised, of course, if it tests. And, you know, guys, it's been trading sideways really since post-split, okay? And so it really hasn't gone any direction. And so it's not like it's making all-time highs, although it did here when the Apple car news came out. Tesla has been a solid play. It's finally starting to bring up some momentum. We're seeing a lot of growth stocks really starting to make a move. And so again, guys, we had this gap fill here back at 780 a couple months ago. And so you can see that we have this gap. And again, what are the levels that we've talked about on this channel? We've talked about 660 as a support. We've consistently, starting way back here, we've identified, if you watch the previous video, 695, 695. We consistently brought up 695 as a strong resistance for Tesla. And what did it hit on this day. What are the highs here? The highs are 694.70, guys. I mean, the high here 693.81. I mean, you can't make this stuff up, right? This isn't stuff that we just made up. This is stuff that you can go back on the channel. We identified 695 as a strong resistance for Tesla. And so if you want to go long, right, we also had talked about what's the area that Tesla needs to break. It was this top here, 695 to 710, and we had this strong candle here. And so what we want to do is, if you want to go long with validation that we're going to break to 695, is it's the same idea as wait for this top. And that's where we had a lot of this momentum, and then we had this fill. And so again, guys, same thing, you know, $1,000 price target for Tesla. That plan hasn't changed. Palantir, absolute solid, finally starting to get some positive momentum. You guys can see it's really hard to day trade this stock because it's lost a lot of that sort of, you know, $1, $1.5, $2 range, which was the ATR for quite a while. But guys, staying familiar, what was that I literally texted my brother and I said, Palantir is hitting 27.50 today. And it was down at, like, you know, low 26s. And it wasn't even anything I had to sweat because we stay familiar with the stock. What's a level that we constantly hit up here? 27.50. Right? And so this was the last time we tested that level, but it was at 27.50s where we hit resistance. And so that's where I'm looking out for a breakout to do what? Since we've been saying on this channel the last couple months, what's our short-term price target for Palantir? 31.50. And so it's more than ever. It's coming quite soon, quite quicker than I would have expected. You know, it's been a slow grind up, but this is my price target for Palantir. And I can see it coming back to the 20-day and retesting here in the mid-20s, and potentially before we even see another major breakout, okay? And like you can see for Spce and all these other stocks, right? They're really breaking out. And so we haven't necessarily seen a breakout, but you can see where are the buyers. Like, look for those big volume bars. Where are the buyers on the daily? The buyers are right here, guys. They're in the trade. And so this is a solid play. And I mentioned to you guys, I will be selling most of my long position at Palantir in this 31 area. And that's my price target. And then I'll look to probably dip buy if we can get back in here and bounce off, let's say, the 27.50 when we validate up here in the low 30s. Okay. Spce, guys, just an absolute tear. I think that, you know, we did that video about a month ago saying, will Spce ever take off? That was way back here. And guys, it's just been an absolute tear. I mean, the news with the FAA approving the commercial flights for, you know, the company, it's just been absolutely great news. And, you know, coming in to the stock, I mentioned in my last daily recap, guys, it's been just choppy, right? And so we knew that, I mentioned in my last video, don't short the stock until what? Look, I have an alert here. Spce breaks support, may go to 200-day VWAP, right? And so we're looking for a break here to short, and then we were looking for a break at 38 to go long. And that's because that was a consolidation range. And I mentioned, you guys, it's just going to be chop zone, because I had traded it twice and realized I'm just getting chopped out. I traded it at this thinking, going long, thinking we were going to fill here at 41, and I got chopped out. And then so we basically were just going back and forth. And so what did it do? It filled right here. And I remember this day. It filled, and it was a great short, because guess what the high was that day? 41.65. And we had called on this channel the price target of 41.50, right? And so you had that opportunity these 2 days to essentially go short or go long. But then this news came out in pre-market, and you can see the stock just absolutely tore out. And I mean, it's just great for the company. It's exciting, guys. Again, if you're a holder at 17, I know a lot of friends that got in the stock even in the 30s. Guys, you've made, I mean, an insane 50, 60, 100% profit, 200% profit. Please pay yourself. I know some of you guys are worried about short-term gains and things like that, but believe me, these moves don't happen every day. To go from 17 to 55, if you got it at the bottom here, absolute steal. So please don't forget to pay yourself. I know people who've been holding, they really don't care. They look at the longer term picture, which is great. I believe in the company too, but obviously this is just great news. And you can see, again, look at the volume, guys. Biggest volume day we've seen in the stock. AI, guys, also exciting. We know where this stock is going. It clearly wants to retest the recent high here at 76, 77 pre-earnings. And so, we sort of retreated back here in this consolidation range right here around the high 50s. And so same idea, guys, as I'm looking for a retest here at 77 short-term price target. I mentioned to you guys before that my short-term price target was in the low 80s. I think it was like 82.65 is what we had mentioned. And so what we're going to look for is, again, is a breakout from this range here. First, we'll have a retest. we'll probably have a sell-off, and then we'll break through it on a high volume candle, and that's what I'm looking for. And so you can see the volume's picked up, you know, a little bit, but guys, again, you know, from 57 up almost 7-8 points in a matter of a couple weeks. Definitely excited about this stock, and I can see, you know, AI and especially the growth stocks again coming back strong. The last one I do want to talk about is our friend Nike. Guys, Nike was an absolute tear. You can see the high volume bar, all-time highs. This is the daily candle. Guys, you know, if people were shorting, this is the area they wanted to short at the 147s. What happened? They got blown out. They got squeezed. But guys, this is way overextended. You can see on the daily, we're way overextended. You can see that there's a massive gap. What I was personally looking for in the way I wanted to trade it, and I want to pull out my day trade here, my day trading charts. The way I wanted to play it was essentially a breakdown, okay? And so you can see here that this level of 147 was the previous top. And so what I was looking for was a bounce off of that level for a dip buy. And there was really no dip buys on the stock, right? It essentially traded within a $2-3 range, and then essentially ended up making all-time highs. And you can see on the fast-moving SMA line, it just traded above that. And so it was a solid stock. And honestly, I bought a put on expiring last Friday thinking that this thing could flush, and I ended up screwing up option trading. And so you know, go light on things that are speculative and risk very little, and that's what I did. I bought a contract. It actually was up 30, 40, 50%. I thought there was a bigger move because, again, I wanted to test my thesis at 147. I didn't get that flush, and I didn't cover for a profit, and I ended up taking a small hit, but it wasn't a big deal because it was just one contract, okay? So again, test your thesis, see how it works, and see, you know, what they did, and that's what they've done. They've held this key level. Now, what am I doing that most people who aren't staring at tape not doing? Looking at the level 2, guys, this clearly has a buyer at 150. If you look at this chart right here and you look at this low here, we had a 151, and then right here there was clearly this buyer at 151.50, okay? And they continuously bought the stock up to the point where it actually ended up making all-time highs at the end of the day. And then you can see here, guess what happened? And so we had this flush, and then where did it bounce off of? 150. So that is kind of the theme today, guys. Staying familiar, understanding what levels is the stock bouncing off of, where are the buyers at specifically, but clearly trading under the SMA line. We know the stock looks weak, and I'm still short the stock. And so I've actually been shorting the stock. Did not cover on this move and covered some on the flush today, but I am still waiting for a bigger picture item. Can I be completely wrong? Yes. Where would I cut it? I would cut it if we're making all-time highs, meaning that the high here at 154.50, if we end up going higher than that, guys, I'm not going to take any more heat on the stock, right? Because if we gap down and we end up making all-time highs, you don't want to be shorting a stock that's doing that. And so clearly, I think the stock wants to go down. I think we have at least 3, 4, 5 points this week, looking at a 147, 148 break. And, you know, let's see if it comes. Again, if it doesn't and it ends up retesting, I will probably cut it loose. Not a big deal, but I definitely shortened my size on this flush here, okay? With that said, guys, as always, I wish you the best of luck. Please don't forget to hit that like button if you did enjoy this video. As always, guys, I appreciate you, appreciate the support, and I hope you guys had a wonderful day. Take care. Bye-bye.